Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Before we get into today's episode, a couple of quick, really cool things to tell you about. First of all, congrats to Phil Lanzon, Uriah Heep's keyboardist and one of the primary songwriters, for finishing his book trilogy, The Evil with a Thousand Faces. All three books, the first two are available now. The third one is on pre-order. It will be available March 31st. Get your order in. On the website, scotthaskin.com, go to Uriah Heep Podcast, scroll down to Phil's section, and you will see links for all three books on Pegasus and Amazon UK. The first two books are available on Amazon US. I am waiting for that link for the third one to show up, but get your order in. That is a huge undertaking, so seriously, well done, Phil. Also, I told you guys about this on the first couple of episodes. Go to Elke's website. That is in the show notes and on my website as well. And go check out her picture. She's done a beautiful picture that spans Uriah Heep's music over the first 24 albums. There is a song to be found. A couple albums have two songs, but there is at least one song per album to be found. The answers are on her website, as well as the full picture and some zoomed in things. And she will also give you hints. So it's a very cool thing. It's a lot of fun to see if you can figure out what pictures represent what songs. And it was a great painting by Elke. So go and check that out. And now, today's episode. Welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I'll be covering every studio song the band has recorded and every bonus track that I can find. Each week, we'll go over a new song from the beginning to where they are currently, and as they keep adding albums, I'll keep adding shows. Let the deep dive party begin.
In the magic garden, some were singing, some were dancing.
Hello and welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I am your host, Scott Haskin, and I have to admit, this is a little bit bittersweet. When I first started this podcast about a year and a half ago, one of the songs I was most excited to cover was the song that we're talking about today. And now that we're here, it just seems like it's all gone by so fast. 4 episodes a week, every week since shortly after I started. I think when I first started, I was doing like 2 episodes a week, and then I doubled it fairly quickly and have kept up that pace ever since. Not one episode has been missed. I'm very proud of that. And here we are with the last song on Livin' the Dream. Now, I'm recording about 6 weeks ahead of release schedule, and I can tell you that as of 6 weeks ahead of the release schedule, there is no word on the release date for the new album. Whether there will be by the time this airs or not, I don't know. I'm apparently time traveling right now, but but not really. So I don't know what my future or your current time listening to this will hold. But I know the album's going to come out at some point, and when it does, I will be very excited to cover each and every song. But for now, this is the last song that's out there. Now, we do have some bonus tracks that are floating out there that we have yet to cover, so we are not done quite yet. And then after that, I'm working on something else, and if that all pans out, I'll have another surprise for you guys. But the show's pretty much winding down, so this song really fits that feeling today because it's kind of, I've always looked at it as a passing of the torch, but not really. Like, okay, kids, it's getting time for you guys to take over, for the young generation to come in and do what they're going to do. But also, we're not done. So, like, we have this torch and we know you're going to take it, but not yet, because we still have shit to do. And they do, and they will. And we already know because they've been in the studio recording another album. But so it's kind of it's kind of a weird feeling for me today. I'm still excited to get into this song and talk about it because I think it's just a fantastic song on every level. And I don't know, maybe you guys will too. Maybe you don't like it. I don't know. But hopefully you do, because I think it's a fantastic song and well worth enjoying many times over. And so I say, you know what? Let's just get right into it. Here it is, Dreams of Yesteryear by Uriah Heep. So you guys know the riff, right? You hear it at the end of every show as I sign off, and the exit greeting comes on. I picked this song specifically because it fit a couple things. It fit the right feel for the show ending, but also because of the lyrical content. I felt it really just worked on both levels. I love this riff. I think it's great. I think it's really intriguing. I very much remember the first time I heard it. I was driving home from work, had just gotten the new album, and was just listening to it to and from work. And it took a few days because I had a fairly short drive. And I remember when this song started up, the first thought I had was, wow, this sounds different. There's something different, whether it's the key of the song or what, I don't know. I don't think they did anything differently as far as EQ or anything like that goes. But there's just something about this opening. I love the sound of it. I love the feel of it. Great quick build when Russell comes in, and then, Mick's playing just takes off. And this is, I think, probably from a guitar standpoint, the most emotional song on the album. I think that there's a lot of character in what Mick is playing that relates to the sentiment of the song. Now, this has all the elements of a classic Uriah Heep song. Dave is doing some meandering on the bass. It just works beautifully with what Mick is playing. Phil is doing a lot of stuff on his own, playing a lot of interesting bits on the keyboard, and yet it all works together. It just kind of seems like they're all doing their own thing, but they all really work together. And great drumming from Russell. I like that he's using the ride here instead of the hi-hats. I think that just makes the song sound a little bit bigger here. And I'm getting chills as I talk about this. And not because it's cold in the room, because, well, it is, but I'm actually quite warm. Another perfect example of beauty and simplicity, right? Just nice chords coming from Phil, just a nice strum coming from Mick, a little bit of color coming from Dave. That's all it is. And yet it just sounds like I want a whole song of that.
Let me tell you how it was so many years ago, when life lived in dreams without a care. Those days will always be mine, there to last a lifetime, and check with me anytime, anywhere.
It's a really powerful message. I think as everyone progresses through their lives, we start to look back as we have more and more memories. We think about things that we did that, we did what we thought was the right thing at the time, or maybe we were a little careless or reckless or whatever it was. And we look back on that with the wisdom of today and judge ourselves on where we were at the time, but using today's wisdom, and it just doesn't work. And I think a lot of people end up with regret. I wish I hadn't have said this. I wish I didn't do that. But at the time, it was the right thing. But you're looking back with wisdom, with experience, and saying, if that were today, I would have done this instead, or I would have not chosen to do that. And this song just kind of reminds me of that, of just like looking back over my life. And I'm creeping up on 50 now. And I have to say, I really identify with that feeling. There's so many things you wish you did differently. You can't go back and change it. So it's kind of irrelevant. But if you can look back and learn from it and do better the next time, then it's not so bad. This public service announcement was brought to you by the Magicians Podcast. Again, another simple thing that just has a really high impact. That's a really emotional part on guitar. And I don't know exactly how he's doing that. I'm guessing there's got to be some slight delay on that maybe, or or maybe it's 2 tracks. It could be 2 tracks. Either way, I love the sound and the feel of that. I think it's very powerful, but it's just a beautiful, elegant phrase on guitar. Fantastic.
Thoughts were of a different time. They seem like yesterday, but society had written different rules. The world was rearranging, and our whole life was changing. Our ways of thinking came from different schools.
You know, I wanted to point out the progression of the riff behind the verse here because I really like it. It's pretty classic what you would hear in older country songs. A lot of rock and roll. You know, you're playing where you're at, and then you go down lower, and then you go down even lower before you come back up again. And I love that low bass note in there. I think that adds a lot of power to what we're listening to. It adds that just thickness and emotion that we wouldn't get otherwise. So I think that's a great choice for the order that we're hearing things in. And it just backs the emotion of the vocal perfectly. One of the many reasons I love this song.
But all the while our hearts were one, as love brought us together. The pain of youth will drown in ecstasy. The more things tend to change, the more the young will make it better.
What a powerful chorus. It just kind of comes out of nowhere, right? Everything was a little bit gentle before that. And then just boom, there's this really emotional, intense chorus. I think the thick vocals here really are so important, probably on this song more than any other, because it really enhances that intensity, the emotion, the looking back over things, judging and looking at the world the way it is now and how much it's changed. Really powerful. I love the words here. I want to mention that when I first interviewed Mick, back when I talked to him and pitched the idea of this show, we talked about this song a little bit because it is one of my favorites and I wanted to get his insight on it. And he pointed out that this was actually done originally as a shuffle. And, you know, I've tried to imagine it in the last year and a half, and I have in my head a version of the way it could have worked. But boy, it's a whole different song. You know, this song is so perfect for me the way that it is. I wouldn't have wanted to change a thing. I'd be very curious to hear the shuffle version. Maybe it was a happier song overall. Maybe it's not just that the shuffle took place under this type of music, because that would be really interesting. But also, I spoke to Bernie about this when I interviewed him recently, and he talked about, you know, this song a little bit. So check out those interviews, guys. If you haven't heard them already, they're both fantastic people to talk to. I really enjoy doing all the interviews with the band, but particularly those songs that I had asked about. You know, you get curious about certain songs, and this is one of them because, like I said, it does mean a great deal to me. But yeah, Bernie agreed with me on the emotional side of this song. I really kind of want to hear the shuffle version, though. I like the change in the drums here. We're getting a couple things. We're getting rim shots, which you don't hear a lot of in Uriah Heep's music, at least not in the last decade or so, at least. And then we're getting some buzzes on the snare, almost like a marching forward. You know, it has a really interesting change of dynamic to the song, I think. But I like that, you know, the drums started out the way they did, and they've kind of progressed. They build up, they disappear, they come back, they build up, they change. That definitely keeps things moving and keeps it exciting to listen to because it's different stuff all the time. I think bands tend to just get stuck in, okay, we've written the verse, so this is how the verse is going to go. And more progressive bands like Uriah Heep will say, okay, well, that's going to be the basic structure for the verse, but every time the verse plays, we're going to do something different. Or on the third one, we'll do something different. That's very common for them. And I like that because it keeps their music interesting to listen to, exciting, and you don't get sick of the songs because they don't seem as repetitive. You know, I think that's a really cool thing, but I really like that too. God, I love the emotion of Bernie on this. I love what Dave's playing on bass too. There's something in the flavor of that I think matches the emotion of the song, but also just adds to the interest of, wow, listen to what he's doing under this. And it sounds really good. Just the same as the instrumental part before, just supporting Mick in that lead. This song is really, there's a lot of camaraderie in it. And maybe I feel it because of the story more so than I do in the other songs. And I've mentioned, they all sound tight. They all sound together so many times in this season. But there's something about this one that, I don't know, the way that they're working together feels like they knew it was the end of the album. And I don't even know what song order they recorded these in, but it just, I don't know, it feels like they were just all together knowing that this was towards the end. And had this been the last album, and I'm so glad it wasn't, but I would say that had this been the last album, it would have been a very fitting end. Just because of the subject matter, the emotion, the fact that this touches on so much of what Heep is known for. But I'm glad it's not. And I think about, I've made a lot of comparisons over the 24 seasons to Deep Purple. They came out around the same time. They rehearsed in the same community center for Deep Purple's first hard rock album and for Uriah Heep's first album. And there are a lot of festivals and stuff that they played together. And if I think about the album Come Taste the Band, and I think about the last song, You Keep On Moving, and how it ends, like they didn't know, they didn't know at the time that the band was going to break up. I mean, things were not going great, but they didn't know the band was going to break up. And musically, though, that is the perfect ending for them. And I mean, of course, they got back together years later, and now they've done a bunch more albums and everything. But that was a really fitting end, I think, to that era of the band. And to think that might have been the end completely, musically, it just worked so beautifully. And I think that would have been the same here for Uriah Heep's case. But honestly, I'm glad that neither one of those worked out, because we've gotten so much great music. We've got more music coming from Uriah Heep, and I can't wait to hear it. I really love how Phil is following Bernie on the organ. That really adds something special to a song, I think, when he does that. Maybe that's part of why the vocals sound a little thicker, is because the organ's following just as much as the additional backing voices. But I also love that they didn't fill in that fourth line. It seems like there should be another word, another short phrase or something, but I love that they left that empty, because it just fits the motif. It's like there's a little bit of looking back and regret, I feel, and kind of having that. It's almost like he's getting choked up and doesn't know what else to say, so he just stops. And I think that just makes the song a little bit more powerful. But the transitions in this song are fantastic. They're not anything huge. They don't have to be huge. This is just a beautiful song. I'll tell you why this is one of my favorite things I've ever heard Mick play. in this short burst of notes, there is, I feel, what I get out of it as I hear it. There's a bit of sadness, there's a bit of regret, but there's also optimism and hope. And I think to pull out those four emotions in so few notes in such a short time span, that's really something magical. And I don't know exactly how this all came together, this song, but I can say whatever the forces of nature were that put all these elements into this song, I wish I could tap into that, because I definitely feel like this is one of the most beautiful songs Heep has ever done. I'm pretty sure that I'm hearing a secondary guitar track in there. It's just a light strum to accent, but I think that really adds a nice dimension to the music, and goes beautifully with the other notes that Mick is playing on the lead guitar. Really nice, and the drums just filling in, being subtle, not having to do a lot of stuff to draw attention to the drums, but the drums are really just supportive in this song. They help with the builds, they help with the transitions and the accents. But in fact, there's some really interesting cymbal accents, I think, during this section as well. But mostly the drums are just very supportive. The bass is kind of in between. It's got that support, but it also shines a little bit on its own throughout the song. And I think that's very cool. I love that it picks up the tempo here. It's like the next touch that this song needed that you didn't know it needed. You know, just as it was emotional, it was intense. And now with this, it's like it's tenfold, all of those things, just because the beat picked up. And I've talked about this so many times on the show, how one little change sometimes can make the biggest difference. And of course, you've got Dave and Russell playing that together. So Russell's thickening that, or Dave's thickening that up along with Russell. But there is just another level of intensity. It's like these things that you're thinking about that you're hoping for the future, but you're not sure it's going to happen the way you envision it. The regret of the past, all these things are coming together, and it just becomes like overwhelming. And with the music picking up, it's like it shows you or makes you feel that intensity of being overwhelmed by all these thoughts and emotions. It's so perfectly done. And with that, we march to the future, whatever comes next. I love this ending. I think it's one of my favorites. The keyboards sound very angelic here, like the angels are singing us towards the next thing. And I love how gently Russell's playing on the snare. I like that there's no bass drum or anything during that part, but, that beautiful riff that Mick is just carrying us out with. Davey just doing the support here, not, going up and down the scale. The angelic keyboards from Phil. It's just a beautiful ending to not just the song, but the album. It really is a perfect last song for the album. I don't think they could have gotten the arrangement of the songs any better than they did on this one. I mean, everything just flows from one song into another, into another. It has the peaks and valleys of speed and melancholy and, you know, songs that are going to have parts where things stop. I mean, it's just a perfect order. But this being the last song and Grazed by Heaven being the first song, those absolutely nailed. I mean, I'm sure there's an order that would have worked with the other songs in between, but that being the first and that being the last, absolutely perfect. I have thoroughly enjoyed doing this season. It's weird because I thought, you know, I knew the older albums so well, and there's so many songs in the middle that I didn't know or wasn't very familiar with. I didn't know as well as I knew like Demons and Wizards or Magician's Birthday or anything like that. I have to say this has been one of my favorite seasons to cover, and it's kind of bittersweet that it's over. You know, I really look forward to the next album. I'll cover it as soon as it becomes available, and got some surprises coming your way. So stay tuned. It is Friday. I hope you guys do something fun this weekend. I really do. I hope you do something that just create a memory that you'll always look back on and smile. It's important that we do that instead of just, oh, I'm so tired from my work week. You know what? I'm just going to watch a movie and that be the thing that you treat yourself to. Like do something really special. Do something with a friend. Somebody you haven't done anything with for a while. That'd be good. I mean, it's Friday, so you don't really have a lot of time to put this together. So just do the best you can. But I hope that you all have a great weekend. Thank you for joining me for season 24, Living the Dream. And if nothing else, these guys are certainly doing exactly that. And we are getting the benefit of it. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Uriah Heep. We'll see you on Monday. Cheers. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. If you have enjoyed this show, please consider going over to Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast outlet, leaving a rating or a review. Be sure to subscribe to make sure that you are notified when new episodes are available. Please be sure to share this podcast with your fellow Uriah Heep enthusiasts and anyone who you think would like Uriah Heep, which should be everyone. And if you are so inclined, please feel free to contribute to the Patreon account. And if you are not a Patreon subscriber, you can also pay through the PayPal link on the website listed in the show links below. I would also like to thank Uriah Heep for their very generous support of the show. And thank you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Happy days! Didn't we just hear this song?